we built this program on NIL. We built this program in God's name, image, and likeness.
Easy, Dr. Peppermint.
Should college athletes just be paid a salary?
Hey, this is Dakota Crawford, wide receiver from Louisiana, now playing in Lincoln.
But with the hype this year comes the controversy over the way players get paid through name, image, and likeness deals, or NILs.
Back in June of 2021, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that the NCAA was not allowed to limit any non-education related payments to students, something they had done for, well, forever. In the wake of that ruling, the NCAA adopted an interim policy that allows for college athletes to do something that was previously forbidden: to profit off their own name, image, or likeness. That includes signing autographs or endorsing products. Top-tier amateur athletes were finally able to profit off of their celebrity status. But did these three letters ruin college football? Did they shift the competitive balance towards the haves and away from the have-nots? And in the end, was deregulation really worth it? Let's answer all those questions, and that's coming up right after this. So, what's your biggest fear? Right now, for me, it's looking at my bank account. Well, what if I told you there was an app that you can open with happiness every time, knowing you're getting money back every freaking time you use it? Yes, with the Upside app, you can earn cash back starting today. And in 2023, every extra dollar is clutch. At first, I was skeptical, but I found out that businesses partner with Upside to give you your money back on purchases. You know how coupons work, right? Well, this is better, because I suck at coupons. Think about how an extra $10, $20, $50 a month would help you out. I'm using that extra cash to help pay my ever-increasing bills. This is such a no-brainer. Download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play and use my code FivePoints to get an extra 25 cents back for every gallon of your first tank of gas. First, claim an offer for what you are buying on Upside. Check in at the business, pay as usual, and get paid. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or even an e-gift card if you want. Again, download the free Upside app from the link below and use promo code FivePoints and get an extra 25 cents back for every gallon on your first tank of gas. The dirty underside. After decades of debate, nil is the answer to a lingering question. Why weren't college athletes the one getting paid despite generating millions in revenue for their universities? A student athlete should be able to capitalize on their fame and talent, especially in a country where a college football coach is the highest paid public employee in 28 different states. Yeah, Dabo. Shut the fuck up. And let's not forget a shady history full of backdoor deals, violations, mob involvement, and tax evasion. But here's how nil works in reality. Players generally don't actually acquire endorsement deals by themselves or even with the help of a single agent. That's typically handled by something called an NIL collective, which is a company composed of wealthy alumni and boosters that aren't officially connected to or operated by universities or their athletic departments. Does this sound familiar? NIL rules also vary from state to state, the most restrictive states being Illinois, Arkansas, and Mississippi. But generally speaking, athletes are now allowed to appear in ad campaigns, sell ads on social media, sell merchandise, start sports camps, start a business, sell memorabilia, make paid appearances, and give speeches. All stuff they could never do before. Hell, they couldn't even get part-time jobs before. NIL money in college football has surpassed $1 billion a year, and 12 athletes were valued at over $1 million entering 2022, according to the NIL platform On3. Players like Bryce Young and Caleb Williams are both valued at over $3 million, while Arch Manning, before even playing a snap at Texas, is worth $3.5 million. If you take a deep dive into quarterbacks like Young and Williams, their endorsements include big brands like Nissan, Dr. Pepper, Celsius, Fanatics, and Beats by Dre. Brands that the average athlete does not have access to. Do you see where the problem is starting to arise? Varying levels of standards and enforcement are applied, and though it's all technically legal, it seems like just another version of the old under-the-table ways of the past. And let's not even talk about how NIL tips competitive balance. Super teams? Just kidding, we're totally gonna talk about that. It's a video, duh. Back in October, Utah Athletic Director Mark Harlan mentioned that one of his football players had been offered $1 million in what we assume is pre-allotted NIL money to transfer to another school. We don't know the player or the school, but it's not hard to believe something like that hasn't already happened in the wild, wild west that is currently college football. The USC Trojans made the biggest splash of the college football offseason when they lured Lincoln Riley away from Oklahoma, molding back-to-back first overall picks at quarterback in Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray. Though, I mean, is that really a resume builder? Alongside Riley came OU's freshman quarterback, the aforementioned Caleb Williams, a projected future #1 overall pick who went on to capture a Heisman Trophy and garner comparisons to Patrick Mahomes. Whoa, pump the brakes. Williams' top target, Jordan Addison, was yanked from Pitt and paired with another transfer from Colorado, Brendan Rice, the son of Jerry. Mario Williams also came from Oklahoma, and running backs Travis Dye and Austin Jones came from within the Pac-12. USC's gain was Oklahoma's misfortune. After sustained success for years under Bob Stoops and Lincoln Riley, the Sooners were effectively gutted by the loss of two quarterbacks and finished with a record of 6-7, and a further step forward into Big 12 irrelevance. As most expected, USC cruised through most of the season until their first date with the Utah Utes. No one on Utah's roster cracks $1 million in NIL money, the highest paid Ute being quarterback Cam Rising, great name by the way, who makes an estimated 1/6 of his Pac-12 rival, Caleb Williams. It didn't matter. In both the regular season and the Pac-12 championship game, Utah dispatched the Trojans, keeping USC from their first ever berth in the college football playoff.
USC! What happened?
In the end, it was probably for the best that USC didn't get a shot at the top teams in the sport because they couldn't even handle Tulane in the Cotton Bowl. It was funny.
Get ready! This is all you full time!
USC was the winner of the 2022 offseason, but they couldn't even win a bowl game after luring other programs' biggest stars with millions of dollars. They were elevated by NIL and the looseness of the transfer portal, but they were unable to close the deal against teams built in a more traditional manner. Which begs the question, is it all really worth it? The Trojans were far from the biggest disaster in college football. That title belongs to another team that dished out a fuck ton of NIL money. Back in June, Alabama head coach Nick Saban accused Texas A&M's Jimbo Fisher of buying his team after Fisher put together a recruiting class that included a record 8 5-star recruits and was rated the top class in all of college football. And of course, how did that all work out for A&M? Well, not too well. The Aggies finished with a 2-6 record in the SEC and just 5-7 overall on the year. Following the season, 6 members of their vaunted recruiting class entered the transfer portal. And now A&M has been cursed with the addition of Bobby Petrino as OC, because that guy inspires loyalty. And while Nick Saban was critical, his school doesn't exactly spare any expense when it comes to assembling a roster, though the Crimson Tide also underperformed in 2022, albeit to a lesser extent. The failures of USC and Texas A&M, though different in nature, highlight some difficulties with the current state of college football in the era of NIL. Do the rich actually get richer when it comes to the schools with the most resources in college football? While Texas A&M and USC made major splashes, they seem like they are outliers. Remember, you still have to coach and scheme. Despite having plenty of NIL money to throw around, it doesn't mean that college football is necessarily getting more top-heavy. I mean, come on, TCU is in the Natty this year, and how did that go? The real answer is this thing called the invariance principle, something Simon Rottenberg originally evoked in 1956 to argue in favor of free agency in Major League Baseball. Rottenberg said that regardless of how much you pay players, what draws a player to a given team is the total pool of revenue that talent will generate. So it was easy to say that NIL will only shift the money in college football towards labor rather than the NCAA, but it won't necessarily mean that the best of the labor will all concentrate in one place. To oversimplify, players want to get paid, but they also want to win and not have to get yelled at by some idiot like Jimbo Fisher. No amount of money can guarantee playing time, the right fit, or a Jesus Shuttleworth like college experience. And that brings us to our final point. NIL can be distracting. Michael H. Leroy, a professor at the University of Illinois, argued in a column for Sportico that teams with fewer NIL deals had rosters full of players that were less distracted by their duties as brand ambassadors and better equipped to focus on football. When you keep in mind that these players still have to attend classes and work towards a degree, well, not at UNC, throwing in NIL duties could potentially overload young men who are already spread too thin in their day-to-day responsibilities as student athletes. Yeah, shockingly, no one just gives you money for free, like under the old system. Critics of NIL claim that only the top 1% of college athletes would see a dime of NIL money, but that hasn't proven to be the case. NIL deals are spread further across teams than just the best players, and in another realm of college sports, has empowered female athletes to capitalize as well. I mean, ESPN started airing Wisconsin volleyball games this year out of the blue. I wonder why, and that's definitely progress. At the end of the day, we only have a sample size of 2 years, but we haven't gotten anywhere in the argument that NIL is killing college football. The sport, honestly, looks relatively unchanged, and at least what used to be in the shadows is now brought to light. And it's pretty clear that all the money in the world can't keep Lincoln Riley from choking. Until next time, I'm 5Points Vids, and you made it to my next video.
He like